You're listening to Addie's Radio on the Vets on Media Network.
Good morning. Thank you for tuning to At Ease Radio. I am Jesse Gerritsen, and I'm here today in studio with Steve Jackson, Kyle Horner, Matt Schwab on the board, and joining us later in the show will be Vicky Kibido. Sorry, I'm going to make sure I got that right. Kibido, who I'm very excited to have in studio. She is the owner of Ambient Wellness. And in Tempe, and has a lot of great services, has also a really great story, and can't wait to dive into to what she has to say later and what she has to offer. So this is the first portion of the day today. It's called Tension, and we are talking about news and what's going on in the news. How are you guys doing this morning?
Pretty good. How you doing, Jesse?
Doing good. So we were talking earlier today about militarization of police force here in the United States, and I wanted to get your guys' kind of opinions and what you thought about that.
I'll let Kyle go first. If you want, I'll explain the situation a little bit. Basically, this issue in Ferguson has reached a big boiling point in communities over there in St. Louis, and there's a lot of racial undertones, there's a lot of things like that. But I think even for people who don't or disagree with the racial undertones, I'm not one of them. People who disagree with the racial undertones, I think there are different undertones that anyone can agree with, and I think especially military personnel and veteran personnel might be sensitive to issues of police militarization. In Congress last week, the Wall Street Journal, USA Today reported that Senator McCaskill and Rand Paul are proposing legislation to remove a federal program which provides local law enforcement with excess military gear. The Washington Post reported a little while back now that they reported a list of at least 20 municipalities or counties with under 100,000 people that have acquired an MRAP. And in AZ Central, you look at Sheriff Arpaio's police force, and arguably he might have the highest necessity with, it's a border town, it's the sixth largest city in the United States, but he's got a tank. He's got a tank and a 50 cal. He said he's never used a 50 cal. He said the tank sits in the garage, but for some reason they need him, and he says, they need him. But apparently he lost them because he lost a bunch of
sensitive.
Bunch of weapons, pretty much.
Yeah.
And they reported, AZ Central reported that police officers had taken him home and things like that. So
wow.
These weapons that are going to the local level from the federal government are in one place have been lost, but in others are going. There's a 3,900 person town out there in the cornfields with an MRAP.
Right.
And the Army Times reported that. They interviewed the sheriff of one of those towns. It was a 14,000 person town, I believe, in Indiana. And the sheriff said his justification was that there's violence all over the United States. There's violence in schools. There's violence all over the place, and we need to protect our officers. And that's an argument worth hearing, I guess. A 14,000 person town, I would argue that you're probably not going to see that much violence. And right. I think in many of these small towns, you may have had one murder in 10 years.
Right.
But it's an argument, I guess. And I think the rub and the
unless it's a town full of vampires or something. Yeah. Zombies, yeah. Zombie apocalypse.
That really gets me, though, is, of course, he also said that, it's a lot more intimidating than a Dodge. So they like them because they're intimidating. They like them because it's a show of force. And I think for veterans especially who are used to the fight or flight and who are used to and trying to come back to a civilian world that's normal, to have that kind of militarization is not very beneficial.
So what we're talking about is the Department of Defense Excess Property Program, which is the 1033 program they call it. And I mean, this has been going on for a while. It's really ramped up as of recent. Back in the 90s, they had a lot of counter narco stuff, and that's where the federal government was providing all this military surplus stuff to local governments to combat narcotic trade stuff. And so as September 11th hits, we start worrying about terrorism more. DHS gets stood up. DHS opens up their own programs to provide funding and logistical support to local communities, I'll call them, I guess. But I mean, you have county level, state level, etc. And they're given all this excess military equipment. And as the wars wind down, we end up with a lot more excess equipment, MRAPs. From what I know, kind of, the Army doesn't really want the MRAPs anymore. We don't. It's the Army doesn't really care for them. They kind of serve their purpose, but they're no longer really needed. They're looking more towards other vehicles in the future here. So what do you do with all of them, right? So that was somebody's kind of reaction. Well, we just give them to the local law enforcements. From the local law enforcement perspective, they're getting free stuff. They're getting money to do these things, to stand up SWAT teams, things like that. And then the people in them, too. You end up getting a lot of vets that end up going into law enforcement. And so what they know, what most of their training is military training. So it's kind of just this bridge for them to move from their military training into a civilian style. And yet, it's kind of hard to break old habits. Some things I don't understand about it are, outside of having enormous pieces of equipment that don't serve a purpose outside of intimidation, but I've seen a lot of videos and a lot of pictures of SWAT teams and stuff wearing military fatigues, wearing military camouflage, and it doesn't really make much sense to me why they would need that, because it's almost like as though they're not identifying themselves as being police officers at that point. It almost makes it seem as though they're paramilitary, if anything, if not the actual military. And so that goes against the whole point that's spelled out in the Constitution stuff about martial law. So at some point when your cops are acting like military, does that cross into martial law? So it's...
Well, Senator McCaskill made a point about that in the request, and Rand Paul was talking about it. And basically, how do police continue to be community partners that are providing safety to the community when they're going to be viewed in military gear? And
Right.
It creates this effect, and especially in communities where there has been racial disparity and where there have been racial undertones, and there have been disparate treatment or disparate results on different communities. How do you create a trusting partnership where police can actually do their job?
Right.
And it's kind of difficult to have a community partnership where police are active members of society and are doing more good than harm when they're seen as...
When their rule is intimidation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. What do you think, Jesse?
Well, I think you spoke right to it, and I tend to agree with that. I just don't see how ruling with intimidation is a good idea on any front, because people that are criminals and need to they're not going to be afraid of intimidation. It's just going to make them want to amp up more. It's going to make them and then the common folk that why do they need to be intimidated? Why the good folk, the good people, the good citizens? I mean, why do they need to start having this attitude of, oh my gosh, like the police force is this military force that's just, I can't handle it. And then, like what you said with the veterans flight or fight. So,
I see a lot of it as a knee-jerk reaction to not even really new threats, but threats that have been reported a lot more on. For instance, you have a lot of one of the justifications behind a lot of the stand-up is active shooters, because now we hear more about active shooters and it gets really blown up in the press, and bad things have happened, of course. It comes down to, like, for instance, when something happens at a school, anybody in the U.S. will think, well, that could happen at my local school. Mm-hmm. And especially when it happens in a sleepy town. So they look to their law enforcement and say, well, what are they going to do to prevent this?
They're gonna crash in with an MRAP.
Yeah, right.
Exactly, and
That's what's gonna happen.
and so you have, and also it's kind of a proactive thing on some of those law enforcement organizations to say, well, we're working on this, and we've got this equipment now, so that's going to help us in this situation, preventing these things, and it doesn't really ever prevent anything. It just kind of creates this form of escalation. And on that note too, I read a good article a while ago about specifically about active shooter drills. That's why I brought it up. But that a lot of different local law enforcement agencies are going through and conducting more active shooter drills to train on. And sometimes they don't tell the people, the civilians who are involved in it, that it's not for real.
Yeah.
And there was this good story about they were at a retirement home, and this lady was working there, and then all of a sudden this guy comes in with a gun, and he pushes her into a closet, and they're in there for a while, and the cops come and bust him and take him out. And the whole time she didn't know that it was all an act, that she didn't know that it was all a drill. And so she ended up suing, but it's kind of, there's some emotional scars that are left after that why didn't they let anybody know? And it's kind of this, I'm sure from their perspective, they wanted more realistic training, and it's
so let's give our town PTSD. Let's give
it's pushing this. The whole thing I was trying to get is it's trying to be this really proactive, creating a presence, creating a stance where we're in control. You don't have to worry, but at the same time, it's kind of
they're never going to be in full control.
Exactly.
And at some point, you have to balance the burden on freedom with the benefit of having higher security. And I think our nation's kind of at a tipping point. You have 9/11, and then you have kind of carte blanche with a lot of things. And even now, a lot of those things that you had carte blanche with, you had a lot of rhetoric about kind of scaling it back in the past couple presidential elections, but in reality, it hasn't been scaled back.
No. If anything, it's the complete opposite.
Yeah, and you have this higher level of technology. You have increased ability to infringe on people's rights, and I could have an entire conversation about how police authorities expanded and how the Supreme Court's allowed a little bit more and more leeway. I guess recently there's been a little bit more protection with the Supreme Court, but yeah, we could go an entire day.
We can really talk
on the kinds of things that police can do to infringe on your liberties, and they're legal now. So
I've never understood some of it too. Like I'm not against, obviously, law enforcement having better protection and being safer, but at the same time, when we're starting to increase firepower and things, it's kind of unnecessary. Military technology is meant that way because you're out there fighting tanks, you're out there fighting other guys, with this almost the same equipment.
Right.
So you always want a little bit better. But when it comes to law enforcement side, there are a lot more considerations that are involved. An example being, like, if you give a cop an AR-15, that's a .223 round in there, that punches through. It's a rifle round. It goes pretty fast. It punches through things. And that's why, like, the FBI years ago went to the 10 millimeter, the 40 cal, is because 40 cal tends to stop in people. Because if you need to take out your one suspect, you don't want that round to go through them and harm anybody else. So I don't really, when you're dealing with threats that there is no actionable intelligence that says that they're going to have any higher power than you are, or higher firepower than you are, then why do you need to storm in with, we need to make sure we have that 249 up there on that MRAP ready to go.
Yeah.
Like, what are you expecting out of it?
This is the Wild West. We don't need guns ablazing.
And I'm not saying that. If there was actual intelligence that, yes, we know that this group in this house is holed up with their own M2 and they've got a Mark 19 or something, then by all means, you need to be at least be able to match force. But when it's like, well, it's a meth head who might have some 9mm, then do we need to send in half the police force with fully automatic M4s and night vision, and it's just kind of, it's kind of you see it a lot too with on the same side, the civilian side. It's because it's cool. It's tactical, and it's
Well, there are already issues with
That's
police
why they push
shootings.
for it, I think.
Police shootings and misuse of force. With a 9 mil,
Yeah.
there are issues of police shootings and misuse of
Yeah.
force. Right around Ferguson here
Right.
in Phoenix, they had that woman who had a knife and the police shot her. In Ferguson, it was a guy who may have stolen something, may have done something possibly violent, but um, I don't even know how to go for the accounts. The account that I heard, or one of the accounts, I guess, is that he was walking away when the police officer shot him. And you can beat the heck out of a policeman if you start walking away.
Yeah.
Then, you know,
Yeah.
I don't really think there's any authority to use force to shoot him.
Right.
But I don't know. That's
You know,
going to legality and things like that. So I don't really.
yeah. And I think about the mindset too, that I mean, the change in mindset, that just having that, all of those weapons and that military, you know, kind of force would do for police. I mean, it kind of puts them in a mindset of like everyone's out there a threat, and and we have to really, you know, and it creates almost a separation between between our government and, and civilians and just regular, everyday folks. And so, and like what you mentioned about the escalation of the fact, it just really kind of, intimidation never works. It just creates more intimidation and more intimidation.
And it escalates.
And it escalates and escalates.
Feeds off each other,
feeds
feedback
off.
loop.
So what do you think, talking about this, are viable solutions? I mean, what I mean?
I think having public access to police standards and procedure would be beneficial, and I think a lot more public oversight. If you look at the way that police and the sheriff's offices are run, they're run by election, but you have a very limited participation in those elections on the part of the public, and you have very limited oversight on the part of police departments, especially municipal police departments.
I mean, you're getting in it. I mean, obviously, it goes up for a vote, for instance, for your county sheriff. Is that what you're getting at? Like, it's the political side of
it. But
things.
as far as the police department in your home city, it may not be up for a vote. And to have freedom of access to that information and their SOPs would be a big way to address it. And then I think police oversight in the form of video cameras. I mean, that was what was ordered in New York when the stop and frisk things happened. That was what was ordered here when Sheriff Arpaio got, when basically they found he was racially profiling. And that's what has been kind of tested here in Arizona. In Havasu, they tested it. In California, they tested it. And video cameras on an officer's uniform have a tendency to moderate what the officer is going to do in a situation, and they have a tendency to moderate what a victim is going to do in a situation. A victim is a guy who sees a camera is going to be a lot less likely to punch an officer than a guy who doesn't see a camera and doesn't think he's going to get caught, or that it's his word versus someone else. And when an officer knows that the camera is rolling, when they're mandatorily required to roll the cameras, you may have a lot less police complaints. The one study they did, I think they reduced police complaints by a pretty high percentage. And I think just oversight. I mean, you can have military-grade weapons. You could have that be in access, but it should be an SOP that those aren't used.
Only unless
in extreme situations.
there's a good reason to.
Yeah.
And I mean, here, riots, they're bringing them out, and I don't know. I don't know that it is a good situation. All I know is that
it makes you question, like, what are you worried is going to happen?
Yeah. They have those capabilities, so we need to make sure that we're at least discussing it, and we're at least coming up with solutions or reactions. Because if people don't discuss it, then nothing will get done.
Yeah, and I agree with Steve on all that. I do want to say real quick on that. I know that part of it too, part of the escalation, from my understanding, was I remember a while back, Janet Napolitano put out that thing when she was head of DHS, right? That vets returning from the war pose this risk. And so part of that was feeding into this, where, well, we have military trained individuals who may be disenfranchised with their government, and they know all these tactics and weaponry, etc. So from our perspective, maybe it's pushing the point that this is this is not really that as big of a threat as it was probably made out to be. And the other part is that and Steve brought up a great point, is it's oversight of vision on police work. But I think also on the same point is also pointing out good police work when cops are involved in the community and doing good things, and they don't have to show that. The more examples of that, I think, too, in addition to would showing examples of situations where cops didn't need to do things that way, to escalate it up real high, didn't need super advanced weaponry and so on and so forth, and yet handled the situation quite well. More examples of that being pushed out there, and showing what good police work looks like.
I love that, Kyle. Thank you for sharing. And I think that really is kind of the key, is putting our attention on what is working, and rather than on the problems, on the like even that instance of you saying they want military force for veterans, because veterans that's putting a bad label on veterans. I mean, what about all the puts a stigma on us, and then it just kind of it just creates that separation factor. And what we need right now is more unity, more this. So anyway, if you have an opinion on this, please go on to Vets on Media website and put your comments down. We are about to go on break. When we get back, we will be speaking to Vicky Kibido. Sorry, and that's what we'll be doing. And you're listening to At Ease.
Are you or someone you know looking for a new job or career? The Vets on Media family would like to invite you to the National Career Fair in Phoenix on September 29th from 11 until 2 p.m. This free job fair will be held at the Phoenix Airport Marriott Hotel, located at 1101 North 44th Street, Phoenix. This is your chance to meet some of the top employers in the Phoenix area face-to-face. Get ready to jumpstart your new career at the National Career Fair in Phoenix, September 29th from 11 until 2 p.m. at the Phoenix Marriott Hotel, 1101 North 44th Street, Phoenix. For more information, visit ncfairs.com/Phoenix. Again, that's ncfairs.com/Phoenix.
Breaker, 1-9. How about that bandage? You got some ears on, son?
Have you ever wanted to be a truck driver? If so, pay attention. If not, pay attention anyway. Southwest Truck Driver Training offers everything you need to get started. You can get hired before you begin training. They've got GI Bill approved training facilities, day, night, or weekend programs to fit your busy schedule. And if you have any questions, no sweat. They've got veteran supportive campuses with veterans on staff to serve you. And on top of that, they have lifetime job placement assistance. Put the pedal to the metal. Call Southwest Truck Driver Training today.
Everyone's going to need an attorney at some point in your life. I'm no different. Hey everyone, it's James from Vets On. Whether it was my last will and testament before deployment or my ongoing custody battle for my children during my divorce, I needed help, so I lawyered up. If you need help, I urge you to contact Capstrom Law Firm. Capstrom Law Firm in Springfield, Missouri services clients throughout the state in criminal law, personal injury, and family law. With over 13 years practicing law, Tom Capstrom understands both law and court procedures and how stressful they can be. Let Tom Capstrom Law Firm and his dedicated staff take the stress and worry out of a difficult situation by calling him today. We feel so strong about the work that Tom and his staff are doing that he'll be a monthly guest on the show. Tom is a veteran and a listener, for God's sake, so you know the guy is solid and will fight for you. Give Tom a call today by calling 417-864-0552 or email Tom at capstromlaw.com. And don't forget to tell him that Vets On sent you.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertising.
If you or someone you know is looking for a new job or career, you need to visit the pros. National Career Fairs at ncfairs.com. National Career Fairs hosts over 300 career fairs a year nationwide. The events are free and give you the perfect chance to meet some of the top employers in your area face-to-face. To find the nearest career fair to you, visit ncfairs.com. Again, that's ncfairs.com. What are you waiting for? Go.
Hello. Welcome back to At Ease. And I'm Jesse, and
I'm Steve.
I'm Kyle.
and we are interviewing Vicky Kibido.
Good morning. Thank you.
How are you doing?
Wonderful, and you?
Yeah, thank you for joining. I'm doing really good.
Thank y'all for having me.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, Vicky, real quick, just kind of tell us, give us a little background about what you do and what you're doing in your life right now.
Well, I recently opened Ambient Wellness Center.
Mm-hmm.
It's over in Tempe on Broadway and 48th. We offer several services. We have aromatherapy, acupuncture, hypnotherapy, life coaching, Reiki, massage therapy. We have a yoga studio and polarity.
That's a lot of things.
Yeah.
And we're always looking for more.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
That's awesome, Vicky. Me and Vicky are actually talking about creating some seminars and doing some workshops together. And she's actually performed a few workshops for veterans. And she's having, which you had one last night, right?
We did, and we're going to move it to Saturdays.
Okay.
Saturday mornings. We thought that might be more convenient for people.
Sure.
And it's a acupuncture hypnotherapy detox. And what it uses the NADA protocol, which is 5 points in the ear, which do the cleansing of the liver, lungs, and kidneys. And it also uses the pressure point for quieting the mind and relaxing the body. And this protocol is used by Acupuncturists Without Borders. It's used in the natural disaster areas.
Cool.
So we have taken that and added hypnotherapy, which is guided imagery, a meditation where it quiets the mind and lets the subconscious work on issues or anything that needs to be addressed.
Awesome. Yeah, I actually went to the first seminar, which was 2 weeks ago, right? And
Yes.
Awesome. I mean, I had the acupuncture, it's just really relaxing, and kind of just got me in a state where I was just more positive about my life in general, and just more, like really kind of excited about what was happening. And more clear on my vision and where I wanted to go, and so that was really nice. Steve, didn't you also?
Yeah, I went too, and it was really relaxing, and I really enjoyed it. I didn't know that you could do the the acupuncture and the spots in your ear. I'd done it before on my back, but it was really weird. You feel, and like right when she pokes it in, you can kind of feel it going all the way down your body. So it was very different. And you said something about the Acupuncturists Without Borders, and she explained that a little bit to me. I thought that was really interesting, and that's where they go into like all these hurricane zones and things like that, and they try and help out people who have been kind of devastated by these natural disasters. Or
Yeah, correct. I mean, as you know, when something like that happens, you can be traumatized. And so this is, just to help, bring them down to a level, try to get them out of that state so that they can be more relaxed and
Do what they need to do.
deal with it more and be able to move on.
Yeah.
there was a Wall Street Journal article last week about the VA and trying out new types of therapy for veterans, and one of the things they said is a big issue with veterans is that a lot of them, they don't want to talk about these huge intense issues, and it might not be beneficial for them to do so. So there's this new research out now, and a lot of organizations are trying to get on board, or they're trying to get the VA on board with providing alternative medicine and alternative treatment. So I think and they discuss hypnotherapy, acupuncture, and even when I was in the military, we had they did have these little pilot programs in the warrior transition units with things like acupuncture and hypnotherapy. And hypnotherapy, I think is really cool. It definitely helped me when I first got into my accident, and after I kind of got out, and you're in this kind of place of being very tense all the time, and it definitely helps to kind of center you and kind of get this gravity on your life and to just kind of wipe everything clean and then get started again. And I think that's what I liked about it when I went in. It's just like this thing you force yourself to relax, you force yourself to stop thinking about all these stressors, and then it just kind of wipes everything clean. And when you're done, it's just, you wake up and it's like hit you, and you're just, you're ready to go with life again. So
Have more clarity
Yeah.
and
yeah.
can move forward.
Can you explain to us a little bit about hypnotherapy and the benefits? Like Steve mentioned, a lot of times veterans don't want to bring up past issues or things like
Correct.
that.
And
what,
so, hypnotherapy would be great for that, because you don't have to. Now, there is hypnotherapy where you can communicate with the therapist that you're working with. However, you don't have to, because it's the subconscious that you're working with in hypnotherapy. So, and sometimes you don't even have to know what the subconscious is working on to help move you forward. So you can be aware of what it's doing and what you want to happen, and sometimes you don't even have to be aware of it, because whenever you go into hypnotherapy and you go under, your subconscious is going, and it goes to the point that it needs to. It goes to the issues that it needs to, because in most sessions you will discuss with the client, what's going on in their life, what isn't working, what they would like to happen. And then whenever you bring them under, the subconscious is like, okay, I know why that's not working. I know what you need to help you move on.
Yeah.
And it goes in and makes those changes. And that's why when you come up and you wake up, you still feel calm. You have more clarity, and you know in which direction to go.
Yeah, and I think it's just kind of a regenerative. It's really just kind of regenerative. It felt regenerative, and you, as a veteran and through life in general, you get these stressors, and you kind of carry this emotional or like stressing baggage, and you don't even realize it. And then kind of going into the situation where you're forced to just calm down, it's really helpful to be able to kind of clean yourself out like that mentally. And I know sometimes for veterans it's kind of cheesy to think of all of that kind of stuff, but in reality, you're just trying to clean out your mind like you'd clean out your body.
Right.
And like you try and clean out your bloodstream, and like you try and clean out everything when you're going through these different health practices. So I mean, to try and keep your mind healthy and to kind of keep these stressors away is a big deal. And we live in a world with a lot of white noise. It's kind of nice to just not have that white noise for at least a little bit, and then if anything, you come out of there feeling a little bit just blank.
Yeah.
Slate,
Yeah.
And they say that one session equates to 4 hours of sleep and rest.
Yeah. That's awesome. Now, we were kind of talking about, work, doing the mind and keeping it healthy. So hypnosis, as I understand it, I'm a hypnotherapist as well, is, it really works on beliefs, and it does it through right-minded kind of imagery, through imagination, through metaphor. So a lot of times, like, you can go under and you can have these, you're almost like waking dreams. Sometimes you may not even remember them, but the dreams can create these metaphors, which, when you focus on them, can help change beliefs or change thought patterns, which are keeping you, in a pattern that is not. That's what's so powerful about hypnotherapy, is that it really kind of can work with those beliefs and things that maybe are not on track in your life, or things that you're not feeling good about, can kind of help you reset that and just give you another perspective, a new way to look at it.
Yes, it's good on changing habits, like if you want to quit smoking, weight management, if there's things that you need to release, if you need healing. There's a wide variety of benefits from hypnotherapy.
Now, is there there's a lot of stigma about hypnotherapy and about what it does, and I want to kind of
Yes, I would not make you quack like a duck.
Yeah.
Unless you wanted to.
Right. So tell us about that. I mean, is there, like, you know, harm that can hypnotherapy ever cause somebody harm or going the wrong way? Or
Hypnotherapy, you would never do anything that you would not normally do.
Mm-hmm.
No one can go in and control you or anything, because it is yes, it is a team effort, because the hypnotherapist is guiding you to go under, to quiet your mind chatter, to get out of your conscious mind and to go to your subconscious. But then it's you and your subconscious that's working.
Mm-hmm.
And so your subconscious is not going to let you do something that's going to harm you.
Right. Your subconscious.
Your subconscious loves you.
Right, loves you.
I know that. I remember when you were taking classes on this, Jesse, and we had a real long conversation about some of this, and I obviously don't know nearly as much as you guys would know, but one thing that I was kind of told about it is it's exactly that. It's kind of guiding you towards something you actually want. Exactly. And it's kind of the hypnotherapist is there to, again, like we keep saying, guide. But it's you that's creating that path. It's the hypnotherapist is trying to give you your left and right limits, so to speak. And then it's something you have to want, deep down.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of finding the way to get to that is all it really is, right?
Yes.
It's nothing crazy. It's not like you're seeding some subliminal message or anything in there at all. It's really just kind of you're helping a person figure it out for themselves.
Exact guide. When you say guide, that is exactly what it is. We're just the guide. And like if somebody, I've had some clients say, oh, will you help my husband quit smoking? Well, does he want to quit smoking?
Right.
No, but I want him to. Well, it's not going to work, because it has to be the person that is having the therapy. It has to be one of their desires.
Like you brought up
be.
the shtick you'll see on stage if you go to the fair or something where they have them quack like a duck and do all that stuff. And the thing is that right before they start that, they always ask, who wants to come up here to be put under?
Exactly.
And then you'll see them pick people and have them leave the stage because it's only. I remember I talked to somebody who did one of those shows and went under, and then they said that what it was like for them is they knew exactly what they were doing the whole time, and it was just kind of they wanted to because they thought it was fun, and it would just kind of remove some of the inhibition they had. They were really relaxed. The person just kind of really relaxed them that I don't really care that I'm in front of these people doing this. This is fun, and that's kind of how they got into that state. So it sounds like it's kind of similar then for a more productive hypnotherapy session, right? It's something where I want to do this, but I might have some inhibition or I might have some fear maybe of what's going to entail. So it's just kind of having, relaxing that person, getting them to the state where they can realize you can do it, right?
Yeah.
Like build some confidence or even just kind of get rid of some of the worry. Am I on the right track with that?
Yes.
I'm trying to wrap my head around some of
there's
this.
even one therapy that we call parts therapy. Like if you have two parts of you that are arguing, one is like, oh, well, I want to do this, but then you have this other part that's like scared or it's just arguing, saying, no, we can't do that.
Yeah, this happened before, and why would you think that it could happen again, or right? Yeah.
Right, and so there is a therapy session that you can do that those two parts can talk to each other and come to an agreement so that the client can move forward with what is going to be for their best and highest good.
So like you said before, it's really kind of geared towards people who really do want to change or really do want something.
Yes.
And so it's not really for somebody who says, yeah, that might be good. It's somebody who is, it's definitely something they want.
Exactly.
Okay.
Anything that you want more of in your life, yeah.
And you know what? And talking with y'all and some of the work that Jesse and I are working on together, I had an idea that I would like to put out there.
Okay, sure.
Because like you said, they're looking for other alternatives for vets. I would be willing to take on 10 clients of vets for free to go through so that we could document to see if hypnotherapy will help them. And then I could take that.
This is kind of like a little bit of a research study for yourself.
For me and I think that they would benefit from it, and then possibly maybe bringing that to the VA so that
So right
we
before
can
we go
help
to
more people.
right before we go to
How's
break,
that?
I'd like to say your website is ambientwellnesscenter.com,
Yes, sir.
and that would be a great way to get some contact info if anybody wanted to go do that, right?
Yes.
Okay. And
We are about to go on break. When we get back, we will be at ease. So we're just going to be chatting about the weather, and no, we'll be chatting about whatever happens, whatever comes up. So I'm Jesse.
I'm Steve.
I'm Kyle.
And you're listening to At Ease.
Are you or someone you know looking for a new job or career? The Vets on Media family would like to invite you to the National Career Fair in Phoenix on September 29th from 11 until 2 p.m. This free job fair will be held at the Phoenix Airport Marriott Hotel, located at 1101 North 44th Street, Phoenix. This is your chance to meet some of the top employers in the Phoenix area face-to-face. Get ready to jumpstart your new career at the National Career Fair in Phoenix, September 29th from 11 until 2 p.m. at the Phoenix Marriott Hotel, 1101 North 44th Street, Phoenix. For more information, visit ncfairs.com/Phoenix. Again, that's ncfairs.com/Phoenix.
Everyone's going to need an attorney at some point in their life. I'm no different. Hey everyone, it's James from Vets On. Whether it was my last will and testament before deployment or my ongoing custody battle for my children during my divorce, I needed help, so I lawyered up. If you need help, I urge you to contact Capstrom Law Firm. Capstrom Law Firm in Springfield, Missouri services clients throughout the state in criminal law, personal injury, and family law. With over 13 years practicing law, Tom Capstrom understands both law and court procedures and how stressful they can be. Let Tom Capstrom Law Firm and his dedicated staff take the stress and worry out of a difficult situation by calling him today. We feel so strongly about the work that Tom and his staff are doing that he'll be a monthly guest on the show. Tom is a veteran and a listener, for God's sake, so you know the guy is solid and will fight for you. Give Tom a call today by calling 417-864-0552 or email Tom at capstromlaw.com. And don't forget to tell him that Vets On sent you.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertising.
Breaker, one nine. How about that bandit? You got them ears on, son?
Have you ever wanted to be a truck driver? If so, pay attention. If not, pay attention anyway. Southwest Truck Driver Training offers everything you need to get started. You can get hired before you begin training. They've got GI Bill approved training facilities, day, night, or weekend programs to fit your busy schedule. And if you have any questions, no sweat. They've got veteran supportive campuses with veterans on staff to serve you. And on top of that, they have lifetime job placement assistance. Put the pedal to the metal. Call Southwest Truck Driver Training today.
Do you need an extra push to start your day? Well, then tune in to At Ease Radio. At Ease Radio is a show that explores tough questions in an open and fun forum. The program also engages hard-hitting issues concerning veterans' physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. This show airs every Tuesday from 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on the Vets On Media Network. At Ease Radio is hosted by Jesse James, a combat veteran of Afghanistan, so he knows the problems that veterans face every day. Jesse provides you guidance each and every week to be a better you. So tune into yourself each week by tuning into At Ease Radio. Go to vetsonmedia.com for show details.
If you or someone you know is looking for a new job or career, you need to visit the pros. National Career Fairs at ncfairs.com. National Career Fairs hosts over 300 career fairs a year nationwide. The events are free and give you the perfect chance to meet some of the top employers in your area face-to-face. To find the nearest career fair to you, visit ncfairs.com. Again, that's ncfairs.com. What are you waiting for?
Welcome back from break. This is Jesse, and you're listening to At Ease. And we, before break, we're talking to Vicky, and I wanted to get a little bit into who you are, Vicky, as a person, because you are a wonderful person, and I want people to know, just a little bit about your story, because you have a great story. So, my first question for you is, what is the biggest success in your life?
Besides being here with you guys?
Yeah. Oh.
Flattery.
Yes, I love it.
You know what? I would say at this point in my life, it's Ambient Wellness Center.
Mm-hmm.
And on the business side, on the personal side, I have 2 beautiful granddaughters.
Ooh.
Nice.
And the Ambient Wellness Center, that is a huge accomplishment for me because I came from the corporate world.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very driven, very, I always task-driven, not relationship-driven.
You had like a metric for success, is what you're saying.
Oh,
and,
yes.
and then it had numbers attached to it, right?
Always.
Mm-hmm.
Always. So for me to be able to step away from, the general manager, controller, CFO, all those titles that I had, and to move into a path that is healing others, it's all for others.
Mm-hmm.
I find that to be a great success for me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's great.
And what was the biggest obstacle you had to overcome in order to achieve that success?
Well, I had a very violent upbringing, which trickled into my teenage years, which trickled into my young adult years. So, however, it made me very resilient and very driven and very task-oriented and not relationship. So I could be very on point, and I was always on.
Yeah.
So to be able to slow down and to figure out what I really wanted to do with my life.
Yeah.
Instead of like that, to slow down and to get in touch with what I really wanted and my desires.
Yeah. And tell us a little bit about that.
Obstacle.
What happened? I mean, what was kind of the realization when you were like, I'm gonna.
Well, when I had my ideal job,
Mm-hmm.
it was a general manager and controller on a private island off of South Beach in Florida.
Nice.
So we were catering to the rich and richer, and this was my dream job. I worked in paradise, and I was doing the things I wanted to. But then I was like, okay, so now what? Because I always had goals throughout my life, always working towards goals. So I had reached my pinnacle, I thought. And so that was whenever I actually stopped and thought, well, what do I want?
I want to ask, and this is kind of a tough question probably, but do you think at that point in your life your job defined you?
Definitely. Definitely it did. I always did. I got my self-worth from work, and it was, if I was not giving 100% and I was not being appreciated 100%, if I was not seen as the go-to person,
right,
then why would I be there? I would leave that job and go find one where I was that, and I was getting that.
So then, what is your biggest learning through, kind of coming through that transformation of, being identified as the job to identifying as who you are and then following your passion?
Well, for me, the biggest lesson is that always, all the points in my life, I always thought, okay, so this is my life now.
Yeah.
Like even when I was 17 and pregnant, I'm like, okay, so this is my life here on out.
Yeah.
And when I look back now and see, wow, what a difference this has made. So now, no matter what I'm going through in my life, I can say, you know what? Yeah, this is my life now. But this doesn't have to be my life tomorrow. It doesn't have to be my life further down the road.
So you feel like you've removed some of chasing, I don't know, chasing waterfalls, right? As TLC would say.
Yes. Yes, and I get to be in the moment now. I get to be here now.
So you're just enjoying what you're doing at the time, and you don't feel. Would you say? You're a lot less stressed about things ultimately.
Yes. Well, and it's funny that you bring that up because in one of our classes at Sweetheart, where I went to get my certifications, there was one called stress management, and so you take a test, and then they say, well, if you're up around 200, you probably have a lot of stress in your life.
Right.
And mine was like over 1,300.
Oh, geez.
Wow.
But I didn't think that I was a stressful person.
Right.
But it's because I was so resilient that things don't stress me out. Things come up, I just handle it. I take care of it and go to the next one.
Yeah, you're bringing up the concept, I think, of because you have like things that are called good stress. Stress is always going to be there in life, and then right now, like you own your own business, so there's going to be stressors in that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just kind of, dealing with those stress. And you'd mentioned that you had overcame some adversity in your younger life, and that gave you the tools to kind of manage stress in your own way. And so now you said that when you decided that you wanted to take a different path, you kind of had to relearn maybe a different way of approaching that.
Yes, and some people in this new world that I came into wasn't quite sure how to take me.
Right.
Because I was so, on point and on task.
Rigid.
And then they were getting into the emotional side, and I'm like, that has nothing to do with that. Let's leave that out of here. I'm doing this so I can develop a business and to do that. However, I've learned that, if you're going to create a business that is helping others and working with others, then I do need to bring that human side in, bring that emotional side in.
So I wanted to ask, how
Yes.
did you get into, how did you make that transition? What was kind of the catalyst for you to move over into a completely different field? And how did you get into moving from the corporate world into the wellness world?
I had taken a certified life coaching class years before, because I felt that it would help me in my management positions, working with employees, dealing with people, clients, and which it did. It was great. So whenever I got to that position that I worked so hard for, and felt that I reached the top, it was, I looked, and of course I was by myself.
Right.
I lived nowhere around my family.
Uh-huh.
All my brothers and sisters still live in Texas. My son and my granddaughter and daughter-in-law live here. And I was there, and I was alone.
Yeah.
And I had what I thought, everything that I wanted. But then when I realized that I was alone, and it just, I don't know, it had me take a deep look at myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, so what do you enjoy doing? And so I love traveling, and I love working with people with the life coaching skills, interacting with people.
The human side of things.
Yeah, and helping them, come to the realizations of the things that they want in life and how to get them. So I've thought, well, okay, so how can I travel and help people?
Right.
So actually, my first was going to be a retreat business, which I do have, Liata retreats.
Mm-hmm.
However, to do the retreats, I felt needed more modalities to create these retreats than just life coaching. Hey, come out here and let's just coach you.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I moved back to Arizona, came back to SWIHA, Southwest Institute of Healing Arts, where I did the life coaching, and I'm doing the 2-year holistic healthcare majoring in psychology, the associates program right now.
Uh-huh.
And that's where I found hypnotherapy.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I had other modalities picked out because I was just going to do the 100-hour to be the certified, but then once I got into it and I loved it so much, I dropped some others to add to the 300 to be a clinically certified hypnotherapist.
So things just kind of started growing. Once you took that life coaching class on, then you had some realizations in your life, and then from there on, it's just kind of kept growing up.
And and I took that life coaching class back in 2008, and I moved back here from Florida in 2013.
Okay.
So it took 5 years to coach myself into what I wanted.
Yeah.
Interesting.
What advice would you have for somebody that's, say, maybe their life is not exactly on track and they're wanting to find a new outlet or new path? I mean, what are some strategies, or what's kind of some things that you could tell them that would help?
Well, the one thing is to stop, just for a breather, and just actually ask yourself the questions. What is it that when I do it, I am the happiest?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And because, like we think, used to I would say volunteering. Volunteering, I thought that was my path to help others because that's when I was the happiest.
Mm-hmm.
But then I realized that it is not just the volunteering, it is the interaction of being.
So you're saying find the
people.
aspect of an enjoyable activity and find out what about it that
Exactly.
actually makes you feel fulfilled about it.
Exactly, because I had stopped at that first question of what before I went to the next question
That's
of why.
Yeah.
And it's that why that will help you get the clarity to what it is, the path that you should be on,
Mm-hmm.
so that you can have happiness, fulfillment, and joy in your life.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And one last question before we wrap this up, and I want to ask this. What is your solution to the militarization of police?
Bringing this full circle.
Bringing it full circle all the way back.
Okay, so you're going to ask
She just stayed quiet the whole time.
somebody that's in the holistic.
Yeah.
Well, coming from your perspective and a
Uh-huh.
holistic thing where, and in a world where we're wanting to help people and we're wanting to, what is the solution here? And it can be outside of the box. I mean, it doesn't, whatever comes up.
It's just what's Vicky's perspective
Well, I
on
think
it.
that they should all come to Ambient Wellness
Yeah.
Center and,
It would be so aggressive.
go through life coaching, hypnotherapy, and just like in the NFL with all this domestic abuse that's going on, everybody's like punish him, and I'm like, okay, so where is the people that's going to help heal him so that he doesn't go out and do this again to somebody
Right.
else?
Right.
Yeah.
We're all about the punishment and being there for the victim, which amen on that. However, I think that there still needs to be this healing for the person that's doing it, because nobody's born that way.
Yeah.
Deep
There
down.
is something that needs to be addressed within this individual so that they do not carry this on.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I know that was way off track of what
No,
you
that was-
asked me,
No. That's
but I went to
perfect.
what I knew.
that was good
Exactly
answer.
what I wanted. It was just your opinion, and I think you did an awesome job of telling that. So thank you. Well, that will be it for the show today.
Well, sorry, real
Okay.
quick. Let's say, so if somebody wants to come in and see you, they can go to ambientwellnesscenter.com, right?
Correct. And can I give my phone number if they want to
Sure.
sign up for the
Yeah, go ahead.
program?
Put it out.
My direct number is 480-269-2840 and 480-415-7121.
Okay.
And that is on where? Ambient Wellness is in Tempe.
Tempe.
It's in Tempe on the corner of 48th and Broadway.
Okay. Awesome. And we'll also be putting the information up on the website. So if you're wanting to participate in the free life coaching with Vicky, we can do that. Also, I'm working closely with Vicky, so we'll have all this information really up there. Next week on our show, we will be talking about what are we talking about?
I don't know.
Oh,
We had a schedule going, but it's probably good enough to change.
yeah.
If anything, at least it's 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time
Yeah.
to 11 p.m. on Tuesday. So you can tune in again for us on that, and hopefully we'll have something up on the website that'll tell you what we'll be talking about.
We will. We'll be interviewing a veteran probably.
And that's vetsonmedia.com.
That's on
Which
media.com.
is what they're listening to right now. So
Yeah.
at ease, that's what you're listening to, and
Yeah.
we'll have some stuff up there for you.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Vicky. Thank you, Matt,
Yeah,
for
thank you.
working the boards.
Yeah, thanks.
And I'm Jesse.
I'm Steve.
I'm Kyle.
And until next week, at ease.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, oh, the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming. Get the rocket trackless, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, Satan's that star spangled banner, yeah, wave for the land that's never afraid. You're the heart of the Because we are the brave. Yes, we are the brave. We'll fight to rename the name of the brave. We are the U.S. of A. For those unaware, that flag is still there. It's our future to save. Stand of the brave, the U.S. of A. Oh, Satan's that star spangled